All right, we're very excited to have the multi-talented Jade Esteban Estrada in the house. He's got a one-man play. Of course, before we talk about that, I just got to give you props. You know, one of the things that in the South we do particularly well are introductions to folks. But I think we got to give our own talent a little props. You have done some phenomenal work around the country. A lot of people don't know about your work around the theater and elsewhere, but you have had very highly acclaimed plays. You were part of a series, Icons, The Lesbian and Gay History of the World, and Tortilla Heaven. Minneapolis St. Paul magazine called you one of the finest solo theater artists of the 21st century. That is a very, very high honor. And of course, you were honored in 2006 by Kentucky Governor Ernie Fletcher, who commissioned you the title of Kentucky Colonel, which is the highest honor awarded by the Commonwealth of Kentucky. So, what an honor to have you on this morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you. Wow.
Well,
you kind of went through my resume just right now.
I think it's important people know who they're talking to and talking with. And
I think they're still thinking about bacon.
That could be. That could be. So, this play is fascinating to me. It is about CEO Steve Jobs. It's titled The Agony and the Ecstasy of Steve Jobs. It's at the Woodlawn Theater this weekend. Sunday is the last performance. Tell me a little bit about what this play explores.
Well, first of all, a lot of people, who haven't seen the play will assume right away that I'm playing Steve Jobs exclusively, and it's kind of like a story of his life. And in fact, I play actually many, many characters in the show. And when I first looked at the script, I thought, oh, it's a story about Steve Jobs' life, and it is. But what's interesting, it's actually a story of all our lives. Everyone who lives in this generation remembers the time when we didn't have phones that did all these wondrous things. We remember not having internet.
I still have a bad BlackBerry. I don't remember. I lived it.
Awesome. And I was telling this to Chris Duell a couple of weeks ago that when we're old, Tommy, that when we have these internet wars that they say are going to come.
That's coming.
Yeah, it's coming.
I'm part of one.
Because we need it so badly, so they'll take it away if they feel they can get something out of us. That we'll remember the time before, and we'll remember the time after, and we'll tell the young people, you'll be fine.
Yeah, the great schism. That's
right.
Our wisdom.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not going to get old. I'm Peter Pan. Okay.
But the show itself explores how the phones are made. We've cut some deals with China over the past couple of decades, and it is a lot cheaper to make all these electronics in China with Chinese workers, but they don't have the kind of regulations that we have. They work sometimes 12-hour shifts. There was one person, according to the show, that died after working a 34-hour shift. Wow. He just dropped on the line. And there's a high number of suicide rates, actually, over there because they just work and work and work, which kind of reminds me, back in the 90s, early 90s, I worked as a dancer and a singer on cruise ships. And it was really just the British people and the Americans that we were allowed to mingle with the guests.
Really?
And when you went downstairs, when you talked to the waiters and the bartenders, they came from countries you never even heard of.
Right.
And they worked every single day for 14 hours a day. No days off. No days off. On occasion, they went into port and you'd see them and they were just, it was a wonderful opportunity for them to just not work. Yeah. But that kind of reminds me, how fortunate we are in this country to have, the kind of lives that we do, and not everybody has that around the world.
Yeah, some of this storyline was discovered after NPR's Ira Glass had someone talk about this. Tell me a little bit about that background. Well,
Mike Daisey, the writer and the creator of the show, he's just known for these really controversial topics, and this is probably his most famous show. He he went to China, he did all this research, and then he created this show. When NPR interviewed him after seeing the show, they did a little bit more research on their own, and they found some fabrications. Actually, just, how they just kind of made it.
Too much, yeah. Went overboard.
And then the discussion came on the table of what is journalism and what is storytelling.
Oh, yeah.
Because many times you'll go to a movie and you'll see something based on the life of, and then that kind of lets us know, not everything is exactly what happened, but the message is still true. And so I think that kind of was and Deborah Martin today in the Express News, she wrote a great review about it, but she did mention, and I really appreciated this, she says, it's a shame that, and I'm paraphrasing what she said, that happened because it kind of took away from some very important, some of the message
of
what was going on.
Exploitation going on.
It's not like it's not happening.
Right.
It's just that maybe it didn't happen in the exact same way.
Yeah, and there was no need to exaggerate. I think that's one thing I learned as a human rights activist working, as a young director of an international human rights organization where I did have to document and reveal to the world exploitation of workers. I learned from some of my more veteran human rights leaders and directors, you need to take sometimes just the disappointed tone. Not always, but sometimes you got to tone it down and just say, these are the facts, we're really disappointed, and we need to mobilize people to change this. So I think tone is very important.
As opposed to what?
Well, sometimes in this world where there is so much chatter, noise, competition for time, you feel as if you got to really dramatize the exploitation. But sometimes you don't have to. Sometimes
it speaks for itself.
It speaks for itself. It's so bad that it speaks for itself. So, those who are advocates sometimes toe that line between trying to get attention for your crises as opposed to another crisis. And the crises that have images, that have testimonials, that, have all of those things tend to get most of the attention. So when you have crises where you can't get cameras inside, sometimes you paint a picture that may be a little bit more exaggerated than
to grab their attention, to let them know so that they hear about the issue.
Right.
Understood. Yeah. It's really interesting as well. I've done 17 one-person shows, and all of my family were writers. But I'm the composer and the choreographer and performer, also the writer in the family, but this is one of the few times in my career that I've ever been given a script that, and I said this in the beginning, you could just put the script on the stage and it's just brilliant by itself. So it's interesting to have such well-written words, and then to be a part of that, because I'm always like, well, if my script is not so strong, we'll just write a song, get everybody jamming, and I'm good at that. So this has really been going outside of my comfort zone, because I don't have these things. I don't have a dance break. I don't have 4 songs, to get everybody going. It's all in the writing. It's all in the storytelling, and it's all in the conveying these images that the writer thought was important to get across.
Well, you are still I'm going to say the Tyler Perry of this show, because you're playing all these different characters throughout the performance. Just in terms of expectation, what can folks expect out of this show? I mean, you've got your great acting, and it's a one-man play, but what do we feel? What do we think about as we leave?
You know what? I'm trained to entertain. My whole life has been that, and so I'm happy to see that the critics have found it entertaining. I'm happy the audiences have found it entertaining. We've had all 4 performances last week, standing ovations, which tells me that things are going in the right direction. But one thing, and I hesitate even saying this because sometimes it scares people away, but it does educate people. A lot of people.
Infotainment's all right.
Infotainment, I like that. People don't realize that all of these these laptops, these iPads, these iPods, these phones, they're all made by hand. Because in a place like China where the cost of labor is effectively zero, anything that can be made by hand is made by hand. And there's a human side to that. There's a human story to that. And so where it's entertaining and it's a nice, like holding a hand mirror to the audience about where we've been in our relationship with electronics and how now we can't live without them, Tommy. I mean, that is funny and amusing in itself. But then there's also the story of how the other half lives, how people live in the Far East, and in our relationship, in their relationship to us. It's kind of, when you stop and look at it, when you zoom in, it's kind of like a version of modern slavery.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was just about to say that as someone who has an economics background, it's amazing to me that the countries that have had some of the most significant growth and world dominance in the economy have used slave labor.
Absolutely.
The United States used slave labor to develop itself.
The British
did.
Yeah.
Just about every society has done it, and now the multinational American and other companies are, in essence, using in some cases, de facto using slave labor, free labor, to create these products which we enjoy, whether it's clothes we wear, whether it's foods that we consume, or whether it's electronics that we hold up and use and can't live without.
I think also when people leave the show, and I think this happened like with Watergate, it happened with all like JFK, all these things. I think we'll look back at this as a piece of very vital American history. Technology is a huge part of our generation. And so when people are walking out of the theater, I really feel a sense of that we've gotten to know each other a little bit better. For better or for worse, this has been, for the most part, a truth that was hidden or something we just didn't want to think about.
We've got details about the play on KROV's Facebook page, but tell us about these last performances, when they take place this 1 week, really.
This last weekend. It's been a 2-weekend run. I'm going on tour, so people can catch it in other cities who might be listening. I did a performance in Corpus Christi on Sunday, and it went so well we have an encore performance in 2 weeks.
Cool.
But this weekend in San Antonio, we have an 8 p.m. show on Friday and Saturday, and a 2:30 performance on Sunday.
Okay.
This is also at the Woodlawn Theater.
Okay. At the Woodlawn Theater, I'm trying to get the exact address. I think I have
It's 1920 Fredericksburg Road.
Okay, 1920 Fredericksburg Road, and of course there is a link to their website for ticket information. Jay, thanks so much for coming by.
Thank you so much for having me, and I hope you get to catch the show.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm putting it on my weekend calendar because I like this kind of stuff.